What's up, percussion friends? You are not going to be doing a cleaning video for your drum or your practice pad because that's not something that we have to do. There are maintenance things to do on an actual drum later on in your life, but since not everybody has a drum at this point, we're still developing. We're actually going to work on some rudiments. So your video is going to look a lot different than the rest of the people in bands, and that's fine. So we're going to work on a rudiment called the double stroke roll. Okay, this is going to be kind of like a first step how-to video. We're going to let this gentleman talk. I'm going to do some reacting to it, and I'm going to show you some things along the way. Okay, here we go. All that is double stroke rolling.
I decided to make a video about it and suggest an easy way to think about the mysterious diddles.
Double stroke roll is a diddle. When you hear diddle, that means double. When you hear open, that means double, also diddle. So those three words are interchangeable. So as you hear those words in this video, all that is referring to is a downward stroke, and then it's going to bounce back up and you're going to catch it with your fingers and slam it back down.
Diddle is a fancy word for doubled hit. It can be played with one hand or with alternating hands. But for the purpose of this video, we'll look at it as a double hit with the same hand. So for example, if we have two eights, like so, if they're diddled, they would sound like this. If we have an eighth triplet, a diddled eighth triplet would sound like this. The most basic way to think about the diddle is to make one hit and wait for the stick to bounce one more time. The idea is to learn to allow the second hit without actually taking part in it. This is also the crucial part. People often would try to simulate the second hit because they know it should happen. However,
try real quick to play a double stroke roll on your own. Try to just do a fast one. Try to go fast and see how fast you can get it to move. Do that real quick before we continue on with the video.
However, this results in two separate hits instead of one doubled hit. The key is to disconnect from the need to produce that second hit and actually let the stick bounce in a controlled fashion. This lesson is basically a sketch of what diddles are, and my goal is to get you started in the right direction. In time, I divide this process into two distinct events. The first event goes like this. We start producing a full stroke, and at the very moment the stick collides with the surface of the pad, we freeze the hand and relax it at the same time, releasing the back two fingers, the pinky and the ring finger. What happens is that the stick rotates around the fulcrum point and bounces back freely, but our wrist doesn't actually move. Your aim is to let the stick bounce in as much of a straight line as possible.
Can you try that? Pause the video, try that on your own. Try that motion that he just did. It's going to take some practice, but at the end of the day, you want it to look like that.
We keep a light grip on the stick with our thumb and middle finger, and our hand is relaxed and pointing forward and down, but the stick ends up rotating and pointing upward. Make sure that your fingers remain straight to slightly curved and not tightly wrapped around the stick. Doing that will absorb much of the rebound and leave you in a tensed up position, which is the opposite.
That's a big deal.
So after you've done this for a while,
a lot of people start off drumming doing what he just showed, where they slam and they choke the stick down. You want it to be more loose than you think, like a lot looser than you think.
Both hands, and it is happening every time, we can move on to the second event. It basically starts where the first one ends. With the fingers slightly curved, hand pointing forward and down, and the stick pointing up and backwards, and held loosely with the thumb and the middle finger. Take a moment to get this right. Adjust with your other hand if necessary, until you get used to it. So from here we grab the stick, and what should happen is the stick hitting the pad. Keep doing this for a while until you get used to how rapid that grab should be. Don't use force here. We need a sudden snapping motion like so. You sort of force the stick down with a pulling back motion with the fingers. To accompany this, the thumb and the index finger twist around the fulcrum point and thrust the stick forward. The net result is that the stick rotates forward around the fulcrum point and ends up hitting the pad. We grip the stick tighter at this point, and now all the fingers are wrapped around the stick. The second event ends with relaxing the hand completely as soon as the stick is motionless. Make sure you do these with both hands. If the weak hand, left in most cases, is not feeling very confident, spend extra time with it. Usually the stronger hand is more coordinated, so it should get any exercise easier. Then you can translate to the weak hand by example.
So whenever I talk about weak hands, I mean like the non-dominant hand. So we're talking about right hand versus left hand. So I'm a righty, so that means my right hand is really good. I have a lot better ability to catch with my fingers than my left. And I've been doing this a while. I'm getting better at it. But this is still blowing my mind a little bit when I go to play. Try this on your own. Pause the video, practice that motion. Event 1 and Event 2. Event 1 is the, what do you say? Oh, it's the bouncing backwards. Okay, Event 1. Make sure that's happening. And then practice Event 2, where you're starting here, and you're pulling it down. Okay, and practice that in both hands, especially in the weaker hand. Your dominant hand will show your other hand what to do as you get more comfortable, just like he said.
And by trying to replicate the result. This, of course, goes to form them in succession. We produce a full stroke, but we freeze the hand and allow the stick to bounce freely back up in a straight line. Once the stick is in this position, we grab it and we let it hit the pad. We repeat this and try to shorten the time between the first and second events. Practice this for a while until you don't have to think about it as much. Now comes the part of actually making the diddle. The diddle occurs when you do what we've just learned, but you anticipate the grabbing of the stick. The key here is not to think about the first hit. It will happen, if only because of gravity. The point is to focus on the timing and try to grab the stick very shortly after it bounces up. Make sure your hand is relaxed enough to allow the stick to bounce in the first place. By controlling how much you tighten for the grab and how soon after the bounce this happens, you can control how soon the second strike occurs. The trajectory or amplitude of the stick gets smaller because now there is no time for the stick to travel all the way up. So now that you can do this with both hands, let's connect the right and left sides, or in other words, perform a double stroke.
Before we do the double stroke roll, because that's not really what the purpose of this video, like what you're going to give to me today is. The purpose today is you're going to show me Event 1. You're going to show it to me confidently. I wonder if I can zoom in even further. You're going to show me Event 1 several times in each hand. And then you're going to show me Event 2 where you throw down the snap motion. And then you're going to show me Event 1 and Event 2 move together, just like what he showed just a second ago. So down, catch. Just like the slow motion just showed you.
Once this happens, the stick gets smaller because now there is no time for the stick to travel all the way up.
Okay, so make sure. One, two, 1, 2. Both hands. That's the goal of the video. So if you can show me that, where you go bop, 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 and those other, the event 1 and the event 2 separately, the rest of it will make more sense to you as we start going faster. But I want to see fingers being involved, okay? So have that camera pointed like mine is towards your hands, and make sure that I can see that, okay? Don't have it be in the dark. Make sure that I can see what you're doing with your hands. I want to see event 1, the down, bounce back, and then the snap. Do each one of those several times in each hand, and then show me putting them together where you come down. And then on your own later, in your own practice, start working on and get those hands faster. But that's on your own time. I don't need to see the fast in the video. I need to see the slow and the methodical. Okay? If you have questions, reach out to me. If you want this actual video, send me a Canvas message. Just literally look up how to play double stroke roll for beginners in YouTube. It's under a guy named Drum Ape. This guy's super good. All right. Good work. Look forward to seeing your videos. Bye-bye.